Herzlich willkommen beim Soul Glow Wieder Podcast, deinem Kanal für hormonelle Gesundheit, zyklisches Leben, ganzheitliches Frausein, wo wir Ayurveda und die komplexe Science der Quantenbiologie kombinieren. Ich bin Claudia Huber, Hormoncoach, Ayurveda-Praktikerin, Gründerin der Hormone Glow Academy. Und hier bekommst du Impulse, die dich stärken, erinnern und dich mit deinem inneren Wissen verbinden. Und auch fernab von 0815 Lösungen und generellen Lösungen. Mir liegt es am Herzen, dir ein Verständnis dafür zu geben, wie die Zusammenhänge zwischen deinen Hormonen, deiner Gesundheit, deinem Körper funktionieren, um dir ein echtes Wissen, Impulse und eine Basis mitzugeben, damit du dich besser verstehen kannst. Wenn du auf YouTube zuschaust, dann bitte dem Video gerne einen Daumen hoch, abonniere den Kanal und aktiviere die Glocke, damit du keine neue Folge verpasst, und teile sehr gerne diese Folge auch mit deinen Freundinnen, Bekannten und allen da draußen, sodass wir noch mehr Menschen erreichen. Schau unbedingt auch in die Shownotes, dort findest du meine kostenlosen Angebote. Ich habe Rezepte, Webinare, Mini-Programme, ein tolles Quiz, wo du deine Hormone testen kannst, und du findest alle meine Angebote in den Shownotes und auch kostenlose Beratungsgespräche, wie du mit mir in Kontakt treten kannst und wie ich dich auf diesem Weg begleiten kann. Schau rein und nun zur aktuellen Folge. Right. Welcome to this first, very first international podcast episode. Today is it's actually really the first English podcast show that I'm hosting, and I decided to do that. I mean, I've been thinking of that for a very long time. I mean, you know that I have an American community. I work in America online. I also have, of course, you guys, a very large German community, and I know many of you speak English very well. So I hope you're going to listen to this, because it's going to be just such an amazing conversation. I have on the show, hi, Lauren Bradley. Do you want to say hi, Lauren?
So great to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me, Claudia. I'm so excited for our conversation.
Yeah, and I will tell my people why I invited you, because, well, first of all, because you're amazing, and second of all, is, I've been like in this sort of weird terrain I've been studying Ayurveda and then hormones, and then that led me to like the quantum biology for some reason. And it's really hard to find educated people to talk about this topic in the German, realm. Like, there is not many experts on this or in this field. And so I felt like, well, I can talk, I have solo episodes and I do these, but there's like so many cool people that know so much more than I do, or they know other things than I do. And so I just wanted to bring you like a new and fresh idea and perspective on, a really, really exciting topic. And we're going to talk about iron today. We're going to talk about minerals in the body, this whole quantum, whatever that even is. And let me just introduce Lauren, because her bio is also very amazing. So Lauren Bradley is a trailblazer in the wellness industry, committed to pioneering advancements in cutting-edge science. All of her work serves a future in which all natural and man-made ecosystems thrive. She has a company, Bella Nectar, and she created the first luxury skincare line using beef tallow in her formulations. How amazing. Her ongoing research has ventured her into private health consulting, focusing on quantum mechanics, the science of nature's rhythms, and she also emphasizing she has a vast knowledge in mineral balances, metabolic knowledge, and circadian knowledge. And also what she does is something It's very cool. Biomagnetism. This is a terrain restoration therapy, which at the quantum scale addresses physical, emotional, and energetic dimensions using applied kinesiology, which is muscle testing, and innate intelligence to bring awareness to what is needed in the body. She has clients, celebrities, spiritual leaders, business tycoons, as well as people choosing to exit the confines of illness. I mean, I was one of her clients, just saying, because I was really amazed by what she does. And super, super duper exciting. I mean, maybe you want to just say that yourself, Lauren. You're launching something very soon, a
Yeah.
wellness platform. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have my skincare range, which is Bella Nectar, and that
Hmm.
expanding into the living frequency of Bella Gusta, which is a wellness platform. And
Hmm.
I put together everything that I learned in my journey, my own wellness journey, in what I have kind of surmised as my 13 pillars to well living that include everything from terrain, restoration on the energetic level and the physical level to sunshine codes, all the way to learning self-love and everything else in between in 13 steps.
Hmm. Yeah. That sounds like super duper
Called
amazing.
Yeah, it's called the Quantum Fitness Club because to unpack it, it took me 10 years to learn it. And so it's not something where you can just do like a weekend course and be like, okay, I got it. It's more of um like the concept of when we're in a frequency field together, we all start to buzz and shift and up level together. Well, we are learning new habits, new information to incorporate in our realities. So that is going to be debuting soon, which I'm super excited to share.
Yeah. I feel like you're a real trailblazer and just, ahead of the time. That's what I feel. And so am I. I mean, I'm also always
Yeah.
a little bit ahead of time, a little bit ahead of like what people do now. And I think most people don't even know what quantum biology is. When I talk about it, it's like, oh, she has this new thing. What is that? So, maybe can you just, because I know you have your own definition of it, would you give a brief definition of what you think quantum biology is, or what that actually is, and how you apply it?
Yeah, so quantum mechanics is basically just like the science of nature. And so at the core of everything that I um have come to learn in recent years is that when we uncouple ourselves from nature, we tend to get um uh unbalanced, diseased, lack of connection, and we get symptoms. And the symptoms are multifactorial. And in terms of quantum biology, quantum is like the metric of smaller, right? So we're going in scale at the subatomic level to understand relationship within nature at the level of light, at the level of water, at the level of magnetism, right? We're understanding how we're interrelating with the world at large as part of a system. And we can look at ourselves and our journeys and our experience from that sort of lens rather than a three-dimensional molecular lens, where we think about just causation of like, oh, I must be imbalanced. Therefore, I need to take this supplement, or therefore, I need to take this medicine to create balance, right? Like, um, going into quantum biology, you're sort of going underneath the hood of the molecules
Mhm.
or of their cellular biology so that you can understand the I mean, I get really woo about it. I look at ourselves as light and sound animated. So I'm looking at everything from the lens of the emotions, the thoughts, the mental, the spiritual, the energetic, and the physical through the organization of light and sound that creates matter and creates reality. So I'm kind of like looking at it as the building blocks of our um, holographic reality. Is that, am I going way too out there?
Oh, it's okay. I'm
Yeah,
with
yeah,
you.
yes, yes.
But well, just while you were talking, I was thinking, why is this so different than I've been practicing? I mean, I'm a yoga teacher, a senior yoga teacher, and I've been practicing and teaching yoga for over like 14 years now, practicing for 20 years. And I feel like just now, we always talked about energy. Of course, yoga is energy work and it's like connecting the body and the mind and the emotions. And we talk about that stuff in yoga and like in traditional yoga as well. But I feel what we're what we're doing with quantum biology now is kind of like it's even more subtle and it's even more advanced and it's bringing that to like a daily kind of uh, practical level. So, like, I feel like, okay, now I'm actually working with the light in my normal day to day life, which before I was, maybe I was doing a meditation on my yoga mat, but that was kind of how I worked with the light. And then now it's like all over the place, the light, right? Kind
Right,
of like
right,
that. Yeah.
right. So you're kind of it's I find that also, the connection is starting to the space between the two worlds of like the yogic energetic and then the
Mm-hmm.
physical wellness are starting to come together, and we're bridging gaps because we are talking about two sides of the same coin, right? Like we're talking about the physical things, but we are energetic, so we are affecting the energetic when we're talking about the physical. And then conversely, when we're talking about the yogic energetic, we're actually talking about the physical as well. And so it's really cool to start to understand light in a scientific manner in your environment and how life is powered on this planet. All sentient life is powered on this planet by the sun and, our entire solar system. So you start to look at that in a scientific way, but then you can lean on the yogic practices and knowledge that we've been gaining and that you are of course an expert in as a yoga teacher, and start to connect those dots and start to see like, oh, this meditation is working with the physical cosmic light even beyond our sun, right? And it all is light, is energy, is information, and
Mm-hmm.
we are light, energy, and information. So it's just sharing files in our, from the atmosphere to our bodies, because you know what I mean, we're sharing
Yeah.
files.
Yeah. Totally. And I also feel like, if it's just look back the past 10 years or maybe 12 years, and um, so much has shifted so fast. And just in terms of like how technology developed and how like back, 10 years ago, we didn't have podcasts, we didn't have social media. I mean, we had like Facebook, but we didn't have Instagram and we didn't have ChatGPT and all this like crazy, crazy, crazy fast
Yeah.
technology. And technology is also frequency and the electromagnetic frequencies from all the Bluetooth, the wireless, the whatever, all this like basically all this information that we're just receiving so fast, so quickly, and so much. I feel like we're now even more in a time, and maybe that's why the quantum is also gaining more traction because like we need it more than ever, understanding how all the stuff that we maybe not really see, light. We don't see the wireless, the Bluetooth, like these frequencies, we don't see them. But more and more people are affected by those things, by, the disruption of normal light cycles or disruption of like, as I said, like all these electromagnetic frequencies, they can really disrupt a lot of things in the body and people don't even know. And so I feel like maybe that's also like we have just started the journey, but it's probably becoming just more and more important along the way. Like we're just I feel like maybe we just started that whole tech and it's going to go way off in the future.
Yes, yes. I
So,
think it's a combination of future primitive because we
mm,
have to go back to kind of places where we like for example, this morning I woke up for sunrise and it's winter now, so put on my fire and it's a gas fire so I can turn it on and off. But
mhm.
anyway, future primitive. But in the dark started my day with a fire. And this is what our primitive evolutionary biology is coded for. And a lot of times we're working now in this now moment, and why I think quantum biology is starting to come on the scene and help us get back to wellness. We've been living very far away from nature, right? If you stay at a hotel, for example, when I stay at a hotel, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. This is crazy. There's no windows. The lighting in the bathroom is like insane. Like, turn it off. I'm like fumbling around in the dark and, wearing sunglasses in the bar when I'm trying to get to taking going outside. It's crazy, right? And so we're going backwards into how to organize that primitive light and then move forward in our knowledge and our technological knowledge and blend it together, because I don't think we're going to go back to no electricity and we're like
No,
Laura Engels on the range here.
no.
We're going to have we're going to be moving forward, but we have to kind of take a step back and get a couple of things situated, like maybe the light frequencies that are incorrect, and work in that arena. And yeah, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Future primitive.
Yeah, yeah. And so watch out. It will just, and yeah, we will, we will need this even more in the future. I think that's the point, that we're trying to make here.
Yeah.
Um, and so the way how I met you through our common Kundalini teacher, Hetman, and
Yes.
you were like, I think it was a hormone course, and you were like speaking about rhythms and how there's master hormones and how, they connect to our endocrine system. And then also, um, yeah, it was just like out of this world kind of knowledge. And even by that point, I had even started to study like quantum biology and I was already like aware of all of this stuff. So, but still, I was like, huh? And it was the first time I heard that there is this kind of interconnection in the body between like certain minerals. So now
Yeah.
we're getting back to like a very physical kind of on a very physical level. There's minerals in the body and they balance each other out. And
Yes.
there's vitamins in the body that balance each other out. There's hormones in the body that balance each other out. And so it's a concept of like I call it yin and yang. So there's, this for every yin, there's a yang in the body. For every yes, there's a no in the body, kind of. And we might know, or we might think, okay, yeah, makes sense. But really, I think hardly everyone has heard of, for example, that there is for vitamin D, we have a counterpart in the body. For
Hmm.
iron, we have a counterpart in the body. And so this was a really new concept to me. And I think I want to really talk about that now because I know there's a lot of people, a lot of women especially, that will benefit from this knowledge. And I came to you also with, with an iron. So I've been diagnosed with like anemia for
Yep.
I guess half my life because I was a
Yep.
vegetarian, a vegan for
Yep.
25 years, 30 years. So, and I've had anemia forever. I've been diagnosed with low iron forever.
Yep.
And I never had any symptoms though. I was always fine. I wasn't like, I didn't have low energy or anything. But when I started entering perimenopause, I noticed hair was falling out. And so the doctor was like, okay, well, that's because of your low iron levels. So
Oh,
then I went to the doctor and then I had all this iron infusions.
yeah.
And then I met you, and you're like, oh my gosh, what did you do? Why did you have all these iron infusions? And I was like, because I thought that was like the only way I could save my energy. And I had tried,
Yeah.
I had tried like the pills, the iron pills, and all the iron stuff before. No, nothing worked. And but then, so I ended up with an okay iron level, but a really high, I think hemoglobin was very, very high
Oh,
after
yes.
infusions.
Yeah.
And then you were like, okay, that's no good.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that iron copper, this myth, and I think what people
Can
are
I
saying
tell
it is.
my
Yeah.
Can I tell my origin story about it? I
Yes.
think maybe
Yeah.
just give like the audience a foundation in reproductive system started to break down when I was 37, and I started to bleed uncontrollably every single day for years. And no one in the allopathic realm could give me any straight answers. They would say, "Oh, it's this, maybe it's this. Wait, let's look inside. Oh, it could be fibroids, but it's not fibroids. It's this, it's that. It could be a polyp. I don't know." And I was just bleeding to death every single day, and my iron was crashing to crazy levels where when I would get transfusions, I had to get about 15, 17 transfusions over a period of years and I was like Walking Dead, basically, pale and losing all of my iron. Iron, about 70% of it is in the blood, right? And it's usable. And then you have iron in your tissues. But we'll get into what I learned from my crisis.
Hmm.
Um, in this crisis, I was, bankrupting my uh, irons, all over the place because I was bleeding so profusely. And that is when I met Morley Robbins, who designed the root cause protocol. And he was like, "You're not anemic." And I was like, "Well, I am." I'm dying. I'm bleeding to death, and he was like, no, you have iron stuck in your tissues, and the body is trying to get it out, right? And I learned so much being, I call him my supervisor of my long near-death experience on slow-mo. And he was advising me, with I had a panel of it was him, and it was like another Dr. Petra Dorfsman, who also studied with Jack Cruz and studied with Morley. And we would basically, my doctor's appointments turned into scientific literature think tanks where we were trying to figure out what was what and how to sort of get me off the Reaper's list without getting iron infusions. So I traversed that obstacle course. I mean,
Hmm.
it's funny now. It was a crazy obstacle course. I wouldn't recommend it to people. It's very, sort of, I was on the edge of danger for a long time. But in that experience, I learned so much about My favorite scientific word is bidirectionality. So it's exchange of energy, like you were explaining. Minerals and vitamins are on seesaws, and we are a total system. And a lot of times, um, the allopathic world looks at like, okay, if you're low in iron, we just have to like put iron in the system. And it's like, well, but then you're going to mess up the other relationship that it has. So iron is always working in tandem with copper. Magnesium works with calcium. Vitamin D works with vitamin A. So when we take these supplements and we don't take them in their full complex form, we go from let's use a metaphor. So if we are dysregulated, let's take like a tea set on a tea table that tipped over. Now we have the whole tea set on the floor, and then we want to put it back on, but we're going to upset the seesaw in the opposite direction.
Right.
So it isn't about filling the levels, it's about looking at the the whole system that we are, and then tending to the whole system. And that actually includes light. So when we talk about minerals, we're talking about, I call them kind of like spark plugs to our animation. They're spark plugs to they're the building blocks of our matter. And then we've got like the light that plays into it. So anyway, I'm probably jumping around, but mineral balance was something that, as a woman who also had to like work with my hormones, I had to start with as a foundation and understand outside of the normal, 21st century paradigm that we're at, and get back to older research that was buried, maybe, that needs to come to our now dysregulated, collectively dysregulated now moment, so that we can all start to balance. Because the systems that we have in place now, they don't have any answers. I mean, I had to become the chief think tank, I had to like fire doctors and like kick them out of their offices and be like, no, you don't know. You know what? If I was your professor, I would flunk you. And this is my body. You're going to kill me if you make these calls. Like, no way.
Mm.
So anyway, the mineral balance of our physicality is super important to be in accordance to bidirectionality.
Yeah.
And there is a difference between, I can go into this and give a little more context. There is like an isolate, and then there is a complex. And an isolate is a laboratory made um, copy of nature, right? So you can go and you go to your pharmacy and you say, oh, I want some vitamin C. This is an isolate. It's called ascorbic acid, right? For example. And it is an imitation of vitamin C that we find in nature. And vitamin C that we find in nature, we can get high sources of vitamin C found in nature. And vitamin C in nature is a full molecule that has all of its parts and interconnections. And the body utilizes um, a complex from nature in enzymatic steps. So step one, it's going to use this. Step two, let's say it has multiple steps.
Hmm.
If you give it an isolate, which is a copy of nature, it may not have the ingredients of all of the enzymatic processes that the body interacts bidirectionally in exchange of energy with that vitamin or mineral, right? And it will then need to use what you have as supply to satisfy those steps that the isolate didn't provide, right? So that's one reason why, I went I went kind of out on a limb and trailblazed the skincare. I brought like tallow back to the skincare realm in the form of retinol vitamin A, because I was like, listen, when you use a vitamin A isolate, it's going to dysregulate your vitamin D because, again, it's on a seesaw, it's in a relationship. So, um, I'm trying to explain a wider thing. I hope everybody's following.
Oh, yeah.
So, each vitamin and mineral has a counterpart, and it's a complex in a system that is you're a natural system. So yeah, I started to look at my iron dysregulation and my iron lack of iron as like, well, if I just give myself synthetic iron, then I'm going to throw off all of the other things that iron and copper are in charge of managing oxygen metabolism. So they're energy this is your energy management. And when you're like what you said, you were iron deficient and you were like, I need to manage my energy. And then the doctor said, well, okay, let's just put some iron in. And you were like, okay, why are my situations not, why did I not solve the problem? And why do I now have another problem on the other end? It's because of the relationship and the bidirectionality. And when you put one ingredient in, you're going to mess the other ingredient. The other ingredients are going to be affected.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, I know it's very complex, and I know people will
Yeah.
have like a lot of questions after this podcast. I
Mhm.
expect that, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
And
I hope I didn't go round and round to describe it, and I kind of like was able
yeah,
to, yeah, give
yeah,
you some.
but just what you need to get from this is so there is relationships in the body, and the everything is interrelated. And if you just whatever put something in your body and don't and don't understand the other part of that equation, or it's always kind of like an equation, right? So if you just
Yes.
do something on one part of the equation and disregard the other part, then certainly there will be an imbalance. So that's, I think people will get that and understand that and what it means for like, and I know a lot of women are going to be like, so what am I going to do now? I am iron deficient. I am anemic. Like I've been told my whole life I'm anemic. I'm iron deficient. And so what to do now? So
Right. Right.
yeah.
Right. Well,
Maybe we'll
yeah.
give some like just a little practical hint here to what to do. Yeah.
Yes. So iron and copper are they manage our oxygen at in the electron transport chain at the fourth complex 4, which is the fourth phase of energy metabolism. It turns oxygen into water, fourth phase water, so that you can animate. It's your light animating you, right? And
And
so
so that is in the mitochondria, right? So
yes,
that's,
yes,
yeah. So that's
yes,
why everyone speaks and talks about mitochondrial health. And that's, if I'm sure you've heard people going off about like these mitochondria. Yeah, it's very important. And now you will know more why.
yes. And they're managing our energy, but they're
Mhm.
also, so I started studying mineral balance, and I was like, oh wow, I had a very glaring energy problem based on my lack of iron, and also a lifetime of iron overload that the body was trying to remedy itself through the mechanism of bleeding, right? So sometimes we get these symptoms of the body saying, like, we are having iron overload. We're not managing our oxygen production in the correct way because our iron and copper is dysregulated. So we are, instead of making energy, we're making more exhaust, causing more oxidative stress and causing inflammation and kind of like I animate everything in the body. So like smoke in the body, you're burning fuel that is smoking rather than clean burning it. And so it's like if you had a car and you put the wrong petrol in the car, and then the car was like psh, 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 and there was lots of smoke coming out, and it was just kind of filling the neighborhood, right? So that's kind of what's happening when we can't manage our energy with iron and copper at the um, at the level of the mitochondria. Um, Also, the burning of fuel then now involves our light environment and our light cues because we are reading the light of our environment. So I started understanding that, okay, my minerals in my biochemical body are disrupted, but also I don't live in accordance to the right light sequence. I'm staying up super late. I've got, I would go to like dance parties with lasers in my eyes.
Mhm.
My rhythm was dysregulated. I would eat at night, all sorts. So it's like your question is, okay, I have iron dysregulation. What should I do? It's like a giant bag unpacking. There's
Mhm.
many different aspects to this uh, situation, but it does involve healing your ratios of nutrition from whole. And then on the other side, working with your light environment, and then all together in the middle, working with your metabolism so you can metabolize both sugar and fat,
Mhm.
right? Sometimes we just burn sugar because we're constantly putting sugar in or carbohydrates in, and we're not like burning our fat, or we burn too much fat because we become vegan and then we don't get enough fat, right? And so we have to like burn our own, right? So there's
Mhm.
all these so those three components, I think, are like if somebody were to come to me and say, well, what should I do? And I'm like, okay, you're going to have to work your nutrition with all those seesaws and be mindful and respectful of symbiotic relationships in nature that are in you cellularly, and for your enzymatic processes. Then you're going to have to tend to your metabolic balance and work your metabolism so you can flip. It's called metabolic switching
Mhm.
between fuel sources, ketones, and carbohydrates. And then the third pillar is to work with your light environment and to get the right coding: sunrise, sunset, sunshine in between, when you build the callus on your eye. So you get sunshine first and foremost on your eye, and then it goes so it goes through your eye to the suprachiasmatic nucleus in your brain, and then that is like the master metronome timekeeper of your body, and that timekeeper talks to the timekeepers that are within every cell. And when you get that coding of like the morning rainbow, it gives you what we would call like a solar callus, so that you can then safely go out in the UV light of the afternoon and get sun on your skin without burning, or and assimilate that nutrient, which is also a full spectrum nutrient. I find light to be a full spectrum
Yeah.
nutrient. Yes. And so then at in the evening, you're going to again adhere to the light and watch the rainbow disappear into the night sky. And that three-step process per day also informs your hormones, which are your like little messengers in your body that are like, telling your body what to do and when, in conjunction with your enzymes, right? So Yeah, that's what got me off the Grim Reapers list. Like figuring those three things out. And there are, details
Yeah.
in all those categories.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure you would say the same. I think you really need to work with a practitioner or with someone on along that journey because it's just, it's just so unique also to see what is the thing that's off for you and what is the thing that you need to work on because it might be a different thing than someone else. I think. And so that's
Yes.
also what it's just so different from allopathic medicine where it's like, okay, everyone gets like
Right,
an iron tablet.
right,
Everyone,
right, right, right.
You
It's
know.
called an N1, which means you're the laboratory experiment of one, which is
Mhm.
your full system, your body. And it's an N1, meaning your your scientific parameters for the experiment that is you are unique to the scientific experiment that is you,
Yeah.
and somebody else is going to have. So when somebody says to me like, well, what do I need? Do I just need iron? And I'm like, well, let's look at your copper. Let's see how much ceruloplasmin you have that is unlocking your bioavailable copper in your liver. How much magnesium do I have? How much calcium do you have? How much vitamin D do you have? Um, in a seesaw. And also, I'd like to also add, if it's not complicated enough, the emotions are now playing into the N1. The way you formulate and play out patterns of experience, emotion, energy in motion will dictate the parameters of your N1, your specific needs. Like, for example, let's take magnesium and calcium. Um, Magnesium and calcium work in the energetics of your emotional realm by way of seesaw. And for example, if you're somebody who is cut off from their emotions, cut off from their feelings, you may have more calcium in your expression because that calcium is building a shell of protection from your
Yeah.
perception, perception and
Hmm.
experience. And when you, for example, take magnesium, maybe in like just a normal dose, it could seem like a copious amount of magnesium for you specifically because you're starting to crack a necessary shell that keeps you emotionally safe in
Hmm.
your life, and you're like, oh my God, everything's falling apart. This is scary, you know, right? When I first was balancing my magnesium, for example, I
Hmm.
took a dose that was like on the bottle, a regular dose, and I heard in my inner ear like almost an alarming like magnesium, like my cells were screaming to me, and I sat on my bed and I was like, what is this? And then I was like, oh, I think I'm taking too much magnesium because I didn't have the sodium and potassium to match the dose of the magnesium that I was giving myself. And then, right, because they work together. And then on the flip side of it, my emotions were starting to get dismantled from my calcium, the calcium in that emotional realm. And I was like, this is too much. This is so crazy. And so I had to stop and I had to walk it back and take a little bit more sodium and potassium to manage incremental magnesium doses so that I could break that calcium shell, that like protection of mine, with more systematic ease and unfold more of the truth of who I am, where my perceptions start to become harmonized and incoherent, in coherence. And in that coherent state, my calcium and my magnesium start to balance. So that's an example.
Hmm. That's super interesting. I'm now interested in like what is it for copper and iron? What's the emotional component? Is there one?
I mean, that was something that I very much so was thinking about the entire time because
Hmm.
I was like, wow, this is a specifically very intense dysregulation that I have. I
Hmm.
wonder.
And a lot of women have.
Yes, I wonder what this is. And what I found was it is very connected into the masculine and the feminine. So iron is very masculine and copper is feminine. And like I was at one point, Morley, my mineral mentor, was saying to me, like, do you? So here's what he explains. He explains that when you're managing oxygen in your body, the iron is like the waiter that is delivering the food, and the copper is the chef. She's the chef, right? And he said to me, do you think that you have enough waiters in your life? And I was like, no, I have no support. I am a chef and I am just chefing and chefing and chefing and chefing. And there's so much food in the kitchen just piling up and no one is delivering it. And he's like, aha. And I was like, that I have iron. I have lack of iron, real lack of iron. I've been bleeding for a very long time. Nobody is delivering my food. And I felt very alone, as a woman, and I had to work on that emotional component of like being received with value and then
Hmm.
having someone I had to like become okay with delivering my food to the waiter and being like, is he going to deliver it? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Okay, he's doing it. Wow, this is so crazy. I didn't think this was possible, so there are so many emotional components to any dysregulation that's going on. It's all so poetic. The body is explaining your emotional footprint via your physical symptoms.
Hmm. And I'm just like, well, yeah, I think that's probably the reason why. I mean, I just know so many women who are iron
Yeah.
deficient, and that's just a pattern that so many women have in this modern day and age.
Yes.
Like we
Look
feel
at our
alone.
society. Look
Yeah,
at our society, the way men and women are
yeah,
interacting, and we're all like searching for the divine masculine, for the divine feminine. Like everything is kind of discombobulated and like not communicating. And so we've got mineral dysregulation on both sides of this coin, and we're trying to find our true connection, the divine masculine, the divine feminine, to manage energy.
yeah. And I mean, I'm also my brain goes like to this, okay, also on the physical side, why is there so many women, why is it especially so many women who have the low iron situation? And we've been told it's because we have the monthly bleeds. I mean, I think every woman heard that. It's like because you're bleeding, because you're like bleeding every month, that's why you have low iron. And then
Yeah.
there's, of course, a lot of women who don't eat not like they will not eat enough meat, and there's a lot of vegetarians and
Yes.
vegans, and those are, it's more women that live that lifestyle sort of. And so I'm thinking, is it,
Yes.
but is it really the veganism, or is it what being vegan often implies, which means that we're carbohydrate burners? Like a lot of vegans, they eat a lot of carbohydrates, they don't eat enough fat. And
Yes.
so, and then also when then, when we're becoming more metabolically inflexible, I mean, I don't think that's the right word, but I think when we
No,
enter perimenopause, like when the hormones shift, like
yeah.
metabolism shifts, so it's even harder for women to
Yeah.
stay metabolically flexible. Is that, that's what I'm
Yeah.
coming. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we probably were not metabolically flexible for our entire reproductive life, right? So,
Mm,
so metabolizing minerals and and oxygen and metabolizing like fuel like fat and carbohydrates are kind of on the I have found for my journey I learned are inexplicably linked and
Mhm.
uh or not that's the wrong word. They're intrinsically linked. You can't talk about one without talking about the other. um uh so, in terms of the biochemistry, when you are utilizing iron, and the chef is delivering the food to the waiter, and the waiter is the iron in the blood, right? Delivering the oxygen to the blood. Um, the the magical moment happens in the liver with the ceruloplasmin, which is a protein, and that is where copper is made bioavailable. So now you've got a chef that can actually chef and like make an entree, and then the chef hands off the food to the waiter, and the waiter delivers it. Here's your oxygen.
Mhm.
Um, if you don't have, so in that liver transaction to get to have, your ceruloplasmin, you need vitamin A retinol, which is fat
Mm.
from animal tissue. In English, it's spelled fat, F-A-T, from animal tissue. So the fat that we're getting, when you are a vegan, for example, or you just burn, carbohydrates for your entire life and you cannot burn fat as fuel, that piece is missing. Like sometimes when I have clients that they're like, "Oh, I was a vegan for all these years," and I'm like, "Yikes, we've got to fill your, we've got to work at that liver enzyme level." A divine union dance between the masculine iron and the feminine copper that happens in that ceruloplasmin, but you need fat and light because now you've got the other aspect of that equation is fat and light. Vitamin A and vitamin D are on a seesaw as well. So, if you're taking synthetic vitamin D, which is a poor attempt to receive the light codes from a bottle, and they don't work that way. You can't get light codes from a bottle, right? You
No.
can't get them from a laboratory and from a bottle. So now you don't have your vitamin D, and you are going to mess up the seesaw of the vitamin A, which is the fat that unlocks the key to the iron and copper balance. So we have to look at like our entire, unique histories and be like, oh wow, I haven't been facilitating those relationships for my entire life,
Mm.
or to take it back and give you another angle, like look at another angle of this equation when we're looking at metabolics, for example. If you're only burning carbohydrates and not burning fat, right? You're still kind of in the same dysregulated place. It's just another way to look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that just happens to a lot of women, or I mean, I don't think
Yeah.
it happens. It's just the lifestyle that we think is healthy and that we think is like
Yes.
so
And
this and maybe it works. I feel like it could work in like younger years, or it does work in
right,
younger
because
years.
in younger years you're more metabolically flexible and you probably spend more time outside, or maybe older generations spent more time outside. I
Mm,
think newer generations are going to have a way bigger problem to solve because they don't even have the substrate or the foundation of those younger years of like just like running around and like
mm.
staying outside and like getting the proper light codes all day long. They're like inside on a couch on a device sitting there, and so I mean, sometimes if I look deeply into this I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna go extinct. Oh yeah, yeah,
I
because
have two teen daughters, and it's really worrying me. Like I'm like, gosh, like before I was worried about the bad food, and for a long time I was like, oh God, they're just eating this bullshit, and then now I'm like, oh no, they're inside all the time. So that's like my biggest worry, and I mean, they were
Yeah.
outside as kids, we were playing, but then now, the older they are, they
Yeah.
become, they want to sit inside and,
Yeah.
study and be on a device. That's what teens do.
Yeah.
They study and the rest of the time they're on their device.
Yeah.
And then maybe they meet some friends, but that's about it. And so it really worries me a lot as well. And so I'm on a mission yeah, I'm on a mission there.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Definitely. What is something, because, like I think we could talk forever and there's so much that I want to know that you have to share, but I want to give some more practical things. Just maybe if you have like 3 tips for people out there, for women out there who struggle with, you know, um, maybe their iron levels or whatever their mineral levels, or they don't even know them, but they know they have low energy or they have weight gain and
Yeah.
the usual common stuff that
Yeah.
women over 40 have that seem
Yeah.
to be normal these days. So,
Yeah.
what is your like, if you could give like
Yeah.
three?
So, okay, let's go back to the three sections that was
Mm-hmm.
outlining. So in the first section, which is your mineral balance, taking a look at the root cause protocol for nutritional guidance in terms of how to, if you're taking, like, for example, a laboratory made vitamin C, to maybe go to a natural form of vitamin C. Also, working with your magnesium levels, maybe tending to your electrolytes, and switching to more ancestral diet is a must. And the diet also, in my opinion, has to be in seasonal rhythm. So when you make a pineapple upside down cake in Finland for Christmas, that is a mitochondrial mismatch, right? Like the mitochondria are like, what the hell's going on? What time is it? What day is it? Is it June at the equator? No, it's Christmas in Finland. What's happening? Right? So eating seasonally, eating more ancestrally, meaning getting your nutrients from nature. So there's that is like a step. And then in terms of metabolics, it's like looking at your fuel sources and your habits around that. And instead of just constantly pouring carbs in, so you're burning carbs. So you think of yourself as a fireplace, right? As a fire hearth, and or a fireplace. Fat is like a big log of fire, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you burn fat, you get 4 times as much energy mitochondrially as sugar, which is like the kindling that you start fires with, right? Like, and when you burn only kindling, you're going to have to add more and add more and add more to keep your energy fire going. But when your body can burn a giant log for a long period of time and switch to that fat burning mode, then things start to balance in terms of energy, which is light, which is information, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. And then on the third section, it's to get proper light codes, right? Like don't eat at 9 p.m. Sorry, Spain, but eat when it's light out, first and foremost. Secondly, get up for sunrise. When the sun rises, you rise. It's like, sometimes I tell my clients, okay, if you have a rooster and you put him in the basement with no windows, and then you try and give him a bunch of supplements and iron supplements, and then you're like, why is this rooster still unhappy? It's like, because he has to go outside and he has to, like, do his sunrise thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's never going to just be solved in the basement or in a windowless room. and wonder why the supplements aren't working, right? So you need to get proper light coding, waking up in the morning for sunrise, seeing sunset, getting light on your skin. And or if you live in Finland, if you live in Finland, for example, you're going to have to get out there when it's freezing cold and deal with it. If you live in Arizona and it's like very hot, get out there, it's hot, deal with it.
Mhm.
Acclimating to the environment so that your body can read the quantum biological informational codes coming from the environment. So
Yeah.
those three aspects to me are imperative on the physical level. And then the fourth aspect is working with your emotions, your patterns, the emotions that you have inherited, the patterns you have inherited, and then the emotions and patterns that you have collected. You're 4 years old, you touch a hot stove, and then you never want to go into the kitchen again because you don't want to get burned. Working to um, unravel these kind of knots that we create for coping in life so that we can then go to the other three sections and have effectiveness and not wonder like, well, it's not working, the vitamin C is not working, or the magnesium's not working. Okay, well, you emotionally need to work on your ability to feel, those sorts of.
Hmm.
So I think that those four areas are I know it sounds complex, but that would be my
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah. Well, it is complex. I think
Yeah.
that's just because our bodies are complex and we are
Yeah.
just complex beings. And as women, we're just even 10 times more complex than men. That's what they say. So, from like a physical perspective. So yes, it is complex. And I, I mean, if there is actually, I mean, it does sound complex, but then at the same time, there's very easy and for
Yes.
free things, light,
Yeah.
like the light, like all the light protocols. This is
Yeah.
something that is so universal. It's for free. It absolutely costs nothing.
Right.
It's like the basis for the whole other stuff anyway. So, um,
Yes.
I'm so glad we can teach that to people. And I feel like the more we talk about it, the more it becomes relevant and people will be like, okay, this like very random thing is actually medicine. So I feel like this is also part of our job right now to make this medicine again. So like
Yes.
reclaiming it medicine. And that's why we talk about it. That's why we have this conversation. And then, of course, you need to just work with someone who has a clue. I think that's very
Yes.
helpful. And so, and I know you do, you take on private
Yes.
clients and work with people. I do as
Yes.
well. I also, since I've learned that, I look at the mineral balances in the body as well. And I have like a completely different approach of now, like working with people, and this is amazing, and it's been amazing results also for people.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're the German um trailblazer.
yeah, the term, yes,
We're
it's that.
trailblazing this planet. We're trailblazing this planet so that we can create wellness in the system that is the planet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what we're here for, and I'm so super excited about your wellness platform. I'm feeling
Yeah.
this. I want to
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah, because we just unpacked all this complexity. Now I think, if I'm like, okay, it's a club where we're all helping each other and we're all kind of like
Mm,
sticking to the protocols, our N1s, but in a supported environment. And then the complexity starts to become doable because we've got like a community and like an information net around us so we can continue to organize all these patterns, reorganize the patterns, create new patterns that take time,
Mhm.
like I just unpacked, like if you said, okay, what should we do? And I unpacked 20 things and it's just like, that's overwhelming. So I I want to create a group where the overwhelming starts to become not so much a deterrent, and those mountains can be, those peaks can be reached together because we're all focusing together on the process of like weaving this giant tapestry that is our wellness back to normal nature from all the fraying and disconnect that our society has kind of like led us up to this point.
Mhm. And so many I just feel like there's so many myths and so many
Yes.
stories that we're unraveling and uncovering. And I just did recently a podcast about vitamin D and the myth of vitamin D. So I kind of try
Right.
to unravel that. Now I'm going into iron and copper. And so like we've been told so many things to be true, which now, obviously prove to not be true. So there's just more science coming out for the real truth. So we're going to see
Yes.
that. Watch out.
It's very important to, I think, human nature. We want to be like, okay, well, I'm iron deficient. This is horrible. I don't want to be iron deficient
Mm,
tomorrow. What can I do today? Exactly. Give me the answer. And then it kind of backfires because the the way to properly find balance is to work all those angles, and they all work together. It's like, to create a beautiful city that is like harmonious, you can't just do one thing on one block. You
mhm.
have to like do the whole city, even though that's overwhelming, but that's kind of how it goes, like that's, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well,
people don't like that answer because allopathic medicine has capitalized on our desire to find immediate remedy from pain. So they're like, oh, here you go. It's a pill. Good luck. See you later.
yeah. Well, I know some people might not like the answer, but the people that know us and that will listen to this podcast, I'm sure they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like there's truth to that, and there's real big truth to that." And one last thing, because I really want to
Huh?
ask you your opinion on that. I see a lot of what's going on here, like the doctors, like medical allopathic doctors, but also like naturopaths. So they're going into these infusion things. So they're giving that it's a whole trend. We're infusing everything, like from iron to vitamin C to glutathione to whatever, like everything, magnesium. And so I know there's a reason for, sometimes maybe there is a reason. Sometimes you need a
Right.
lot of input of that, but like now, knowing about this mineral balance in the body, and then after speaking to you again, and it's like, does this even like, is this a bad idea, a bad trend? These infusions, is there something? Do you have that in the States as well? Like these
Yes.
people do them?
We have to look at it in two ways. The first way is for every action, there is a reaction,
Yes.
period. This must be at the forefront of every decision,
Mm,
right? And then we have to look at our own unique situations, right? And um, sometimes to get over, let's look at it in a metaphor of like you're on a quest and you're climbing a mountain, and then
mhm.
you hit this spot where you can't cross a stream, and you're like, well, what do we do? I guess we're gonna have to like what, you have to come up with a remedy to get through that part of the path. But if you're going to get into that stream, right, you're going to get across it, but you're going to be wet now walking. This is now it's the reaction, right? Now you're going to be wet. You're going to have to deal with that. So you're going to have foresight to think about that, right? So there's sometimes you might need something, right? Like a
Mm,
lot of experts could have looked at my path and they could have said, Lauren, you might die You literally might die if you don't get iron infusions. And I had to
Mm,
like weigh my options. And I was like, okay, I'm going to ride the knife here, the edge, and I'm going to figure it out. But I could have actually fallen off and died. So, that being said, there is no answer to what you're saying. You just have to come up with, you have to look at the equation and weigh out all the ramifications. That's
mm,
number. Now, I always say to my clients, you are a mansion and we're renovating the mansion, right? So when we
mm,
renovate the mansion, we have to do it in steps. We're not going to just like call, like, if you, for example, are renovating the mansion and you call a plumber and you let the plumber go crazy and start installing walls, you're going to have weird walls in your mansion. Like you can't let one guy go crazy, but you need plumbing in your mansion, right? And you also need order of operations. So if you schedule the plumbing guy and the ceiling guy on the same day, neither one of them are going to get any good work done. They're going to be bumping into each other. So sometimes you might have to go through, let's go, I know I'm using metaphors. Let's go back to our quest on the mountain. You might have to go through a part of the path where you need a lot of vitamin C. You need the plumber to plumb the plumbing. I mean, I'm just vitamin C doesn't isn't innately plumbing, but I'm just using
yeah,
metaphors, right? You need
yeah.
that guy to do that task in your mansion. And then he's done. And now you got to call in a new guy and he's going to be doing something else. So managing the process and managing the reaction, like action and reaction, and weighing things out is what every medical professional is doing for you. Like, okay, we need to like cut out this brain tumor, but we might cut a wire and then your legs won't work or
Yeah,
something. Like you got
yeah.
to weigh out the risks. So that is true also for when you're behind a really big eight ball in your journey, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I can't really say like, no, don't take any infusion. No way.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
if you're going to
Yeah,
take an infusion, you're going to be, it's the equivalent of walking your path. You've hit a brook or a stream and you're going to have to wade in up to your neck and your clothes are going to be wet.
yeah,
So
yeah.
do you have plans for when you're going to be on the other part of the path to take care of the imbalances that are going to come as collateral?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, it's not the yeah, yes, a no answer. Yes, you should do it. No,
Yeah.
you shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But I understand. I
Like
think.
for example, I'll give you a real example. Because I was bleeding for so long, I didn't have hardly any hemoglobin. I was like the opposite of you. And
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I had to burn fat as fuel and I had to get into ketosis, for example. But when you get into ketosis and you fast, you drop your hemoglobin. So I was like, this is a crazy equation that could be dangerous, and I don't know how to get across this stream on my path, kind of a
Mm-hmm.
situation. So I had to be very, very calculated in how I did that. And I had to say, okay, well, I guess instead of, learning from someone who's teaching metabolic switching and saying you should go into a fast for 24 hours or 36 hours or 48 hours, I was like, oh, no, 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 my body can't handle that. I could
Mm-hmm.
die. I could literally die. So I need to do 19-hour fasts and like skirt the edge as far as I can and like spread it out for a longer period of time so that I can get the results, but on a slower path and like acclimate and allow my body to acclimate and acclimate and acclimate to little bits instead of just dumping a bunch, that sometimes when you get an infusion of something, you're just dumping it all in and being like, oh,
Yeah.
I hope it's okay. So it is like weighing out equations because you are an equation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a beautiful way to end this. We are an equation. We are just a symphony and this puzzle piece and so many pieces of the puzzle that need to like fit together and I guess everyone got the point of balance and imbalance. It's a new definition of that, of yin and
Yes.
yang, and how important that is, even or especially with minerals and
Yeah.
enzymes and vitamins and hormones in the body. So it's so interesting, so fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge here, and I hope you'll come back. I have at least like 5 other topics that I want to talk to you about.
Yay, I love it.
So yeah. So thank you everyone for being here and for listening to this, and we're going to share this with the world. So leave us a review, 5-star review, nothing less. And, send us some questions. And we will link everything, all your information in the show notes so people know how to find you. And then, yeah, take it from there.
Amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Claudia. It's been a pleasure to speak with you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. Herzlichen Dank, dass du heute wieder reingehört hast. Wenn dir dieser Podcast gefällt, freue ich mich über dein Herzchen und Rating bei Apple, Spotify und Co. Spread the glow und teile diese Folge gerne mit all deinen Freundinnen. Möchtest du mehr über meine Angebote erfahren? Dann findest du mich auf soulglowveda.com oder bei Instagram. Bis zur nächsten Folge, deine Claudia.